5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This is episode number 466 of WP Watercooler. The Media Library ends its silence.
It was silent. The Media Library.
I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at jasontucker.blog.
Hey, I'm Say Reed, and I make things around the internet. Say Reed Media on all the things. What?
And y'all know who it is. It's your boy Jason Cosper. I am the Lizard King.
Oh, Lizard King.
Go find us wherever it is that you find awesome podcasts, because we are one of those. And you can come hang out with us in our Discord.
My guess is that you've already found us if you're here.
Yeah.
I've always thought that was weird. Like, why are we telling people to subscribe if they're already like here watching it?
For the people who might be getting us in like
New
suggested videos.
Oh yeah, algorithms. That's right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
Al Gore's rhythm. If you walk without Al Gore's rhythm, you won't attract the worm.
Okay, that is hilarious, and we need to get into that at some point. We have a guest today, though, so we won't get into it today. Our guest today has been on the show before, but not in a very, very long time.
This decade?
11 years ago.
Right.
Once upon a time. No, I think it was 10 years ago, because we're 11 years old, and you were on the second.
In a world
before Gutenberg. In a world before the block editor. There was the Media Library, and now there still is the Media Library. Because no one's done anything with it.
11 years later.
Yeah, no one has done anything with it at all.
I think the Media Library, I'll get to you in a second, introducing you, but I do think that the Media Library has not been touched. Has not been programmatically touched. I should specify. It's lonely and silent. That's all I'm saying. It's lonely. It needs some love. All right. So anyway, speaking
William.
of that, here is William. William is here. Not only is he a longtime WordPress dude from San Diego. He's been an organizer, a WordPress, WordCamp, those campy things. Organizer, right? Yep.
Advisor.
I know you were something
for the failed 2020 WordCamp San Diego.
Oh well, for something, yeah. 2020, nothing happened that year.
Exactly. It was failed. Yeah.
So not only, and you can introduce yourself in a minute, but I do want to say one of the reasons we're having William on is not just because he wrote a creed, a screed, a cry out to attention.
It was a cry for attention.
It was a cry for attention, a plea for help and sanity in WordPress. But when we had William on 10 years ago, we were talking about the Media Library.
The same version of the Media Library. We diffed it and nothing changed.
And we all thought it would be so apt to bring you back on again to talk about that now that there might be some movement in the Media Library.
Yeah, so there's a movement going on.
Tell us about yourself, William, or why you're here, or how that good life is going.
So I am a WordPress developer, and I am still kind of, I do take care of clients occasionally, but I have been a professional photographer in the past, and I grew up photographing. I've been photographing since I was about 8 years old, my clientele.
People don't say that a lot.
What's that?
People say I'm photographing. Like, is that like a?
I have been photographing.
I photograph.
Did I adjectively do something inappropriate grammarly?
That's all right.
Yeah.
So you produced a bunch of EPS files, and then what occurred?
EPS.
I had to think of a real file format.
That's all it is.
I export from RAW. I export RAW from Lightroom to EPS. Yes.
Yeah.
All my photos go to SVG. Yeah. So I've been a developer. My clientele over the years have been primarily photographers. So I've been in the space and know how to use some media.
Photographers.
Oh, by the way, I do have a media library with me today.
Hey, that looks just like our media library in WordPress.
I saw the flaming lips in there, so
That was
well
a
done.
stack
Yeah,
of CDs. Those are known as
it's
compact
it's
discs for those of you
grid.
who need to
It's
Google.
grid view, list view. Yeah.
That was a visual joke for all of you listening.
Yeah.
But you should watch the show for that. I don't know why.
So yeah, I am like a real developer. I was, I am happily unemployed right now. There was a round of layoffs at Web Dev Studios, who I worked for a bit, and then before that, I was with another agency for a while, and yeah, so I make websites and high end, custom websites.
I mean,
better to be happily unemployed than unhappily employed.
Mm,
I mean,
yeah,
that's an
I was
argument
very happy. By the way, I was very happy at Web Dev Studios.
Sure.
Unfortunate that a bunch of us had to let go.
Oh, it's
but
the
yeah,
economy.
So this gives you some time to sit here and think about what's up with the media library and why hasn't it changed over the years. And we were all sitting there seeing this idea that there's this this refresh of the media library.
Yeah.
There's an interest of it that's coming up here, and we're all looking at it going like, this isn't enough.
Well, okay,
right.
I know you're proposing this stuff, but I don't feel like this is enough.
Before we get there, though, I want to back up a second because the reason we know that the media library is part of phase 3, which we are embarking on, the Guten phase 3, is because it's written in the roadmap, right? It's in there that to remodel, redo the media library, it needs an upgrade. So it has not been upgraded, and maybe there have been some like small programmatic changes to keep it like functional and all that. I'm not aware of those specifically, but
absolutely,
there have been
just
effective functionality changes.
So behind the scenes, there's a lot going on that have been improved over the last 10, 12 years. We got back then we had just had when I was on the show last 9 or 10 years ago, we had just released responsive images, right? So the image source set had just been released. There were some bugs with that like it stopped at the 1024 size, right? And then if your images were larger than that, it would show those. So if you're on a really large screen and you had like a 3,000 or 4,000 pixel image, it would show that because it was the limits were 1024, right? So there's some bugs that have been fixed that I was complaining about that for like 2 years. Those finally got changed, right? So now we have the original stays as the original, that doesn't get added to the source set, and I think the largest it'll go up to now is 2048. So we're kind of capped with that image source set, like the sources that are in that. And so that was one of the big changes. But then there's, you look through, like, if you go to the core media Slack group, Anthony and those guys are like hitting all the bugs that have been coming up. Like there's so much going on behind
Slack. I cannot track them all.
You're talking about like work going on. There's so much to keep like maintaining what we have currently, and so but then there's this whole we totally need a new media library as well. And the proposal, Matthias's proposal that we were talking about is like addresses some of that, but like to Jason's point,
Ventura, lead developer for Gutenberg. Right, that's what you're talking about.
Matthias,
full on damn or go home. So here's
right. No, I'm with Rachel for sure.
I want to back up a little bit before we start talking about features, because I'm kind of obsessed with process. And
can we address what DAM means, like really quick, so people aren't lost?
In a minute.
Please go for it.
Okay.
Yeah. So a DAM is a digital asset management or manager, right? And that's where a lot of us want the media library to go.
Yeah, because it turns out PDFs not so great in the media library. Okay, so but I want to back this up because before we talk about features, and I promise I won't dwell on this forever, I want to say, so for example, you've been talking about where is the media library conversation happening, right? You are in core media, which is in the Slack channel, and the conversation's not happening there. So we went on after last week's show and our discussion about we mentioned on last week's show that you did not get a reply back when you were asking Matthias, lead developer for Gutenberg in phase 3, where that conversation was being held. And lo and behold, after the show, you got a ping back that told you and gave you a link to the GitHub repo where this is happening, right?
Well, it was a GitHub repo where something was happening. It was a proof. It was a proof of concept.
Link it to the show notes here.
Oh yeah. I'll
it's in the show notes currently, so we're good.
Oh, great. Okay, cool. But it was a proposal, not like, it wasn't like some de facto location where, you know, everyone was talking about it. Now since then, you know, I've made some suggestions and said, hey, can we get like, you know, can we have like one cohesive place to like discuss this? Is this going to be like discussed on the you know, core media Slack channel, like, or is there one place where we can bring all the, you know, the feature requests that people have been talking about? And
that would be so easy, William. Why wouldn't we? We can't do that, because then we can't have fractured communication and plausible deniability. I don't know what you're thinking. You're like rational one place to have a conversation that people can provide feedback. You are living in a dreamland. Sorry, I'm a little bitter right now. I don't know if you can hear that or not. There's a slight bitter tone. It might be the coffee, but I'm going to try to tone it down. I promise. Just a little bit. It's been a rough time for me.
So we've seen a lot of ways in which that people have tried to kind of build out either like some type of Ajax interface thing, some kind of overlay that happens on the media library. You go do a search in you know, for media library replacement or any of those sorts of things in the plugins, and you'll find that a lot of people have come up with like these really like crazy ways of kind of setting stuff up, but none of them are what we're asking for, which is having, I mean, we don't need like an entire copy of Lightroom inside of this interface, but we definitely want to be able to figure out where the heck the images are being used, how to categorize them a certain way. And for me, I think for me, the classification of the image is important for me. Like what was the intention of uploading this particular image, or what was the reason why we upload this PDF?
Just for fun.
You know? What's this audio file? You know,
Jason, I don't understand why you are not happy with the attached component, because that tells you where it was uploaded, and that is really all you will ever need to know. You need was it uploaded in a post, or was it uploaded directly to the library? That is key information. And it
I saw a coworker go into the media library, find the URL for that media, that piece of media, grab that URL, go over to the website, hit the image, and then paste it in the full URL for
paste it in. Yeah.
And I was like, what are you doing? Did he type in IMG source equals? Did he actually do all that? No.
Y'all should see how many of the exact same stock photo are in some of my client sites.
Oh,
especially the ones that are heavy on calendar usage, because for the business, you know, turns out there's not a ton of great ways to illustrate business conversations and meetings. Weird. And at workshops. So it's literally like so many copies of the same Unsplash photo. It's
the guy sitting in the booth with the laptop with the stickers.
But I can't go in and delete them because I don't know where they're being used. So I can't. I haven't even put the thought process in to figure out what I would need to do to go have them all use the same image, because that just seems like this morass of pain. Like, am I in the database searching for like _1 or like
I have done that,
right? Like, oh good God, like wow. Yeah. So you can have, I can just imagine someone who's not like thinking about it that way, and they're like, oh, there's all these duplicates, hold on, I'll just delete them. And then
so I'm you know, one of the things obviously is you know, improving the filterability. But I think we should consider having some way to manage duplicates, right? Duplicate, and
Looks
yeah,
like
there is.
this before. Would you like to use the photo that already exists instead of auto naming it?
That'd be kind of cool.
This matches an MD5 hash of an image that you've uploaded before.
We don't even need like the AI to be like, this looks like this other picture. It can literally be this file name. You already have it.
Yeah.
Like,
well, no, and
because it does the _1 _2 forever, right?
Right.
Like, so it already knows.
If it is the exact same picture, it should match like an MD5 hash. So like there are ways to do this already where it's just basically like, oh, you upload the photo, you see if it matches anything that is already in the database.
Use that photo.
Right.
You don't upload it. You like check prior to, like, the computer, the software checks prior to the upload if that already exists, and if it already exists, it uses the already existing one.
Sure. Or you upload it, and if it matches something that's already uploaded, it goes, hey, I would like to throw this away, and you can use, like, you just wasted your bandwidth. Thank you.
So much.
However,
I just want to say also in the chat, Mika said that someone literally did that, I'm assuming, deleting the duplicates, and they had to back it up. They had to redo it because they deleted all their messages, all their images. I mean, it is not just disorganized. That's the thing. This is not just, this isn't like a Google Drive that has everything not in folders, right? Because it is literally built to like make it harder to find the thing. Well, it's not built in order to make it harder. The way that it is built,
it was never a consideration.
I mean, and also it hasn't been touched in 10 years. And it turns out people use, images have changed. There's a lot of different, image file formats. There's all sorts of stuff. But, I don't want to get down on the fact that we haven't touched it, although this has obviously been a very important thing for me for a long time. I've been on this, like, what's with the media library train for ages. But what I'm really concerned about is that now that we are looking at it, that it has not been something that we are asking the community about. And I know this is a thing that I'm about, like, talking to the community or whatever.
There's a pattern that's occurring here.
Yeah, it's like we don't do that or something here. But there are like, the brain trust, the amount of experience and intelligence and knowledge that is available within the WordPress community is really unparalleled. Like, and the amount of times, like, everyone who uses a WordPress site uses the media library. It's not like a plugin that you're, whatever. Like, we all use it. You have to use it. It is like, if you have any images on your site, you use it. Like, the WPCC's website has one image. Guess
the logo.
Yeah, the logo's not even in there because it's a full site. It's one of the fancy new ones, and so that's in a template.
But luckily, there's 15 copies of that logo. There's 15 copies of that logo that has been made in order to make sure that it will show up on all the various sizes that you've ever done and all the themes that you've installed. That image has been like rebuilt in order to be able to do it. Like, I don't know, there's a lot to the media library or media management that isn't just let's put some tags and let's put some some categories together. Because I've done that, and I've even told staff at work, hey, look, here's the deal. I need to know every time this hero image is being uploaded, you need to name your files with the word hero at the beginning of it, just so we can find all of these images. Like, we've had to come up with some like clever stuff in order to be able to manage stuff in a very, very, very basic media library. Like, this thing is just too basic for its own good.
And the thing that really kind of comes down to, it's not just for photographers, it's not just for like for normal people, but what the feature set that we're really requesting here is like, you have
it's data.
You have actual publishers that use WordPress. And so if you think about it, like, how does like a reporter who was working on a project, say they're working on a project that, you know, they come back to more than once, right? They're recurring project that they're you know, a journalist on, right? And you know, they have to like come back and find a photo that they used on an article they wrote maybe 6 months ago to get that one photo that their staff photographer took, and you know, republish it, right? So this is the kind of, like, this is real world stuff that, you know, like, people need, you know, or they're just going to re-upload that photo again when they say, hey, can you send me that one photo, blah blah blah, right? Then it gets into things like rights management, you know, like copyright, usage rights, you know, like that photographer that we're reusing that photo either gets a byline or a copyright, right? Like, how is that going to be handled, right? So this is actually like not just, you know, like regular users that use WordPress, but this is like what is that next level that WordPress needs to provide to publishers so that it's a usable thing.
You know,
right?
I don't know though that so I agree with you, okay, completely. However, in terms of framing the case, I do not think that framing the case in terms of publishers is a great approach. Not because they don't have those needs, but because of WordPress VIP and Newspack and the desire, the appearance that a lot of publishers, many publishers, use that service. And that's, you know, that's a bespoke service. And that it, you know, all that stuff over there. If that's the only use case, then we're talking about a use case that the project leadership feels that they know inside and out. So I think that it is important to use other use cases that are not related specifically to news publishing.
Yeah, but like, I mean, they're not all on, you know, they're not all on.
I know they're not all on it, but that doesn't matter.
I worked on two magazines in the last year and a half that are like on WP Engine, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying they're all on there. They're not all on there. And I think it's a completely valid use case. However, when the people who are creating what we're talking about are being informed of use cases, if we inform them of a use case that they have already in their minds, think that they have all of that information and all of that knowledge, and they're like, oh, I know about that, they're not going to listen. That is my point. So I think if we can, you know, when you're having those conversations, and get ready, because guess who's going to join Core Media? I think that it's important to use use cases that are not already asked and answered, right? Like something that they think that they already have on lockdown, because they're just going to say, we already know, you don't know what you're talking about, and really like not listen to what you say. So this is nothing to do with the needs of publishers or publishers that are not on VIP or using those tools. It is just about the people who are making these changes and trying to explain use cases in a way that will be heard. Not that I'm great at being heard in this project, but I'm getting better at it, I guess. I don't know.
I think there's also like
I'm going to be one of those people. I'm going to be one of those people with one of my sleeves and actually, like, you know, in the code, you know, like I've already got, like, see, before I started, like, you know, kind of diving into this is last couple of years, you know, I was thinking about doing something as a, you know, a commercial product that replaces the media library with like the ability to extend out to clients and projects where you can actually, like, you know, and have a catalog where you can define prices for things and that sort of thing. So it'd be like a commercial product for my photographers. But like the more and more I think about it, like, you know, a lot of this can be done without it being a commercial product and take out those, like, you know, unique features that I would want and just improve the media library, right? And just in general, you know?
Yeah. So I want to also say, like, you put into that particular, and can we link please the Slack, or not the Slack, the GitHub thread where you're responding, because that is that proof of concept, whatever that is currently where that conversation is being held, no matter where it is going to go. So we'll put that in the show notes. But you, on your comments, actually put mock-ups that you had done a ways back, not current mock-ups. So I thought that was interesting because it felt like you weren't just, I was really glad that you put those in there because it felt like you weren't just saying, oh, I don't like your idea. You were providing additional stuff and you're like, no, really, I've been thinking about it. This isn't just,
right.
You're not, because I feel like a lot of the times, even if you have great points, if you're just, providing text, it feels like you're just armchair, commenting. But I feel like your mock-ups provided another perspective and also showed that it wasn't just about critiquing their proof of concept, but about
yeah.
I thought that was really valuable and a very good place to start because why wouldn't we have multiple mock-ups to look at? Like we should have multiple mock-ups that we're looking at and being like, oh, we could pull from some of these. Like we have, and this is something that's happened across the project in the current redesign that's happening. We get one mock-up and then some people can add some comments and then it tweaks things a little bit. But the multiple mock-up situation where we're bringing in multiple new perspectives,
right?
That's not happening. So I think if we could even spin up more mock-ups, not just using words for this. I mean, the media library is obviously very visual, so it's important. But I really think that shows, especially since these folks are really design-based, I think it really shows other ways. So if other folks have ideas about how the media library could look, just mock it up. Seriously, like screenshot that, write some stuff on there, like demonstrate what you would do as William has done, other than just critiquing what is there. Because I think that way we can maybe escape the conflicting part. Like this is what we want, and like one idea against another, and instead explore the idea pool. That would be my hope. Because like I said, the media library is literally such a core component of WordPress. I mean, images are so important on the internet.
Yes.
And this is like, if we upgrade this and it's just a cursory upgrade, we add some tags or whatever, like we're not setting ourselves up to be the CMS because images are content, media is content. We are not setting ourselves up to be the CMS leader because all of the other CMSs out there are surpassing our content management because we haven't touched it. And so if we're just going to bring it up to like the level it should have been maybe in like 2018, like we need to take it to the next level. And in order to do that, we need more input.
Yeah. I mean, going back to what
that you're talking about, I was just going to say we might've mentioned this in the pre-show, but it's just like that thread that we're talking about, it really is just a reskinning of it, right? It is really just reskinning it and dropping it into the new Gutenberg editor in a way, right? And that needs to happen, right? Like that world needs that. Building this in React means that it has to go into some kind of like editor, Gutenberg editor-esque kind of world, right? It has to come out of the PHP frame of the admin and be a new thing, a new entity, right? So
it's like editing forms, like editing forms in Gutenberg kind of thing. It's just
it all changed, like meta boxes, all of that stuff, Yeah,
and you're limiting the amount of space that you're actually working in as well, because I feel like I feel like the project is trying to put as many things as it can on the front end versus having a dashboard. Like they don't want to have a dashboard anymore. And I think sometimes some of these things like media needs to continue to live in the dashboard. I mean, there should be a front end to it, but the thing in the dashboard should be someone who's a staff photographer who's taking a bunch of photos for Vox Media or for the Washington or the Post or the whoever, any of these big huge companies are using WordPress. They're not the one who's actually taking the photos and also writing the story. This is a project that has happened. So you need to start off with the project. So you need to have a folder that has all this crap in it. It's going to have all the photos. It's going to have the hero photo at the top. It's going to have the various photos in the middle. You're going to have a little grid of photos. Like you have all these different pieces.
Well, those all exist in Google Drive right now for the most part. Let's be real. Like,
and sadly,
putting that stuff, you know, and then collecting it there, and then having a copy of it there, and then putting it on this thing, and then managing. You know, I have many clients who manage their assets. Some use a digital assets manager, but most of them use Google Drive, and it's almost just as chaotic, but at least there's freaking folders. Like, you know, like that's, and I don't know that folders are, you know, the future necessarily, but I do know that categories and taxonomy should not be limited to tags.
Right. I would like to see actually like do away with categories and tags with as far as media is concerned, and really focus on the EXIF and IPTC data, right? Like there's already X. I mean, we can extend that. I'm not sure. This is kind of gets into like, okay, how do you manage like audio and video and that PDF, so. Like, but as far as photography, you have EXIF information that you can pull from, and there's already support for it in Core. If you look at the REST endpoints, you see all that EXIF data. There's not a lot, but there certainly can be more. But you pull up like there's stuff for aperture and shutter speed and captions. Captions actually should be like utilize captions and keywords should be utilized immensely. Like,
okay, but I just want to say, so all of that stuff that you just talked about, that's all just metadata, right? So that is not like that is just surfacing data that exists on the file. So that is just data display, so you can search by it or whatnot. That doesn't necessarily change the structure or the way that you get images, right? That just allows you to have, I guess, more data to search by, more data that you're able to put on the front end if you want to, or just having more access to data in that file. I mean, and to that end, I just want to have a column that says, here are all the posts and pages in which this image is used, which is also just data, right?
And that data is portable.
In this proposal.
Yeah,
in this proposal they're actually talking.
We've got it on the screen here, and it's got some experimental stuff. We'll put the link in the show notes. I really, really recommend anyone who uses WordPress to go be a part of this discussion. I haven't commented because I've just commented a lot on things lately, so I'm trying to lay low. If that's
but in this mock-up, you'll see the attached to, I think, in some of these. Maybe the later mock-ups that Saxon created or Ramon. I'm not sure. I think it was Saxon that created these. But you'll see, like, I think maybe you're pointing to it now. Is like
included in.
Included in.
Right. But also that is visible when you click, into the image, as opposed to, again, on the main dashboard of the image. But really, we haven't even talked about image editing, which I personally am not the biggest fan of inside.
Right.
I don't think that WordPress should be an image editor. A cropper, maybe, like a focus image thing. Like, I want this to be the focus image. Like things which are plugins that have never really worked for me, by the way.
That's actually in the feature set. That is actually one of the original feature set that Matthias posted, not the additional features that are requested in like a full redesign. Focus, focal point, right, that you can just click on. And then it just adjusts as a hero.
Right here. Right.
Yeah, that's good for a bunch of stuff. But I think the thing is like we don't need like a star rating system, because at this point, this is your 5 stars. These are all the things that have already been selected to show up on the website. You're not like using this to manage your all of your media.
I want a 5-star system. I kind of want a ranking system. Yeah.
Wait, a ranking system for what?
For photos,
so in something like Lightroom or even like photos or whatever, there's typically some type of ranking system that you can use to determine, did this particular photo out of the 5,000 I just took of this one thing that's happening, here is the 5-star, here's the 4-star, maybe here's the 3-star. And so that right there is what kind of makes it so that you can decide whether or not you're going to use that. But I think the thing is like, I don't know how William's approaching this, but like I don't think you're going to be managing all of your photos in this.
Right.
This isn't like
you're not going to upload
no
the whole, selection of photos. You would only be uploading the 5 stars or the 4 stars, right? Like you wouldn't be.
Am I sharing my screen now?
You are not.
You will be.
Now you are.
Oh, okay, great.
There's your light.
So no,
there's
but to Jason's point, like if you are uploading, it should be your 4 or 5 stars, right? Like it'd be your best images that you're looking for. But yeah, this is like you have ranking and color and like flagging. This is going back to the to digital asset management. Lightroom is essentially a digital asset management, right? So you can have all your folders available. Here we go, photos going all the way back to 1991 for me. And then all the way through current, but so this is like this is where you handle your keywording, like and then your editing experience also. So like if you want to edit this photo,
I just want to point out one thing real quick, because I was just looking at this GitHub that I just said that we were going to put in the show notes where you did your comments. They closed it. It's a closed ticket now. So and the closed
they should be pointing to the new one.
But the closed ticket says, "I'm going to close this branch. Happy to continue the discussion here for the record until there's a better place." I am so tired of in WordPress of saying we're not having this conversation here. We're going to have it somewhere else that doesn't exist yet. We're going to not have it here, but we'll have it in an amorphous future, in an amorphous place that is not real. And this is like the biggest shine on ever. Like
I
you don't close the issue where the conversation is happening unless you have another place to have the conversation.
Ramon did create a new ticket, and I think he links to
it. All right. Is it linked in here somewhere? Because I'm just like losing my mind. I like, it is so hard already to track everything that is happening in this freaking project, and everything is buried in like, this is in the Gutenberg repo, by the way. This isn't even in the core one. This is happening in the experimental Gutenberg plugin, which is completely managed by full-time sponsored devs for the most part, from certain companies. So like the fact that it's even happening in Gutenberg is decentralizing it from WordPress. The fact that this conversation and that thread was not linked in core media, we have to be proactive in demanding, and I mean demanding, that these conversations happen in the open. Like, I'm not even over here like picking apart what they're saying. I'm just saying you can't develop it over there by yourself and then just spring it on everybody. Like, that's just not.
Oh, there was another. Yeah, there's like not only that one. Like I said, this is like multiple proof of concepts. By the way, like multiple people started multiple threads.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like we should have that.
I found the tracking thread, which is apparently tracking. It's from 3 days ago, and it's now tracking. It's got the conceptual designs on there. It's got whatever. So we have the proper link. I feel like it's like you got this link, and then you started having this conversation, and they're like, "Nope, don't have that there. Go rewrite everything you just wrote over here because we're not listening." Like,
Cosper, you had something brewing. What were you going to chime in with?
I really think it's pretty rich to me when people will drop stuff like this, and we've seen it not only here with the media library, but we've seen it in other concepts in Gutenberg, everything else. They're like, here's my idea. Let's iterate on this. But the idea that they share is just a bunch of PNG screenshots that you can't do shit with. Like, basically, give me something that I can import into Figma, into a design tool, into something where I can iterate on this, where I can actually share my ideas. It is a one-way conversation. Here it is. The voice of God, here's what we're doing. Like, you know, like it or complain about it, and we won't do anything about it. But this is what you're getting. This is what's for dinner. Enjoy. Like,
yeah, and if you don't like the peas, don't eat the peas. That's all you get.
Right.
Because we're toddlers.
Yeah, but the peas will be on your plate. And
you'll take the peas.
Yeah, every time we have this meal, there will be peas.
if you're gonna invoke the voice of God, you got to do it as Morgan Freeman.
Okay. Oh, please do.
I'm
not going to. No.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like gonna give us a little.
Or if we're in England, you have to do it as James Mason. So yeah.
Yeah, I want to.
My James Mason is even worse than my Morgan Freeman. So
I want to.
Well, that's their voice of God. Yeah, James Mason is the voice of God.
Of course.
Whenever you say Morgan Freeman, I just think about snakes on a plane. So I don't know if that's the voice of a god, but that's what it is.
That's Samuel L. Jackson.
Snakes on a plane.
That's horrible of me.
What do you think all black people look like?
Again, I said that. Shut up. Do not even say it's not. No, I just don't know anything about movies or names, people, celebrities.
So what's our proposed solution that we're looking here? Like what would we want to have this actually like the conversation? So the way that we've had this discussion a few times, and now we're in overtime. So we might as well just talk about it this way. It seems like the developers want to have the discussion as close to their code as possible, because then they can say, look, here's my code. And the people that are presenters, they want to have their conversation close to their presentation. So they go like, here's my presentation. And then you have the video people who, like us, who are like, hey, we want you to have a conversation. Guess where? In our comments. So taking this stuff and putting it into something like Slack, I get it. Like, it makes sense. But I think the problem is like the people that are producing the thing, they want their comments to exist next to their thing so they can do the presentation and say, look, here's my thing.
Well, that's why Figma would be a good option, because all of this stuff is iterated in Figma. Like, everyone's obsessed with Figma, and everyone's making the freaking WordPress editor look like Figma. I'm so sick.
But does Figma, I've never used Figma, but does Figma have a good enough solution to make comments, to like have comments and be able to...
system? Like, that is the one thing about Figma, because you can comment in multiple spots. Like, it's like, how on Google Docs, you can add a comment to a specific area.
Right.
You can do that in Figma. So for iterating and for stuff like this, it actually makes sense. We used it for the design of the about page header and whatnot for 6.4. And, there was iteration shown there, like round 1, round 2, round 3. Like, that made a lot of sense. People could feed in their comments. And then, and obviously these were being done by 6.4 people, not the full-time sponsored employees. So that's probably why we were doing so much great iterating. But Figma does allow for commenting. So even if it was just in Figma, which that these graphics exist in Figma because that's where they're being made. So if we were sharing the Figma instead of the flat file, like Cosper was saying, then at least we could be like, oh, I like this part over here. What if this were something else? Like, we could get more.
I think the issue with that right now is like, okay, you have devs and you don't have like designer, mockup, or UI people involved, right?
No,
and that's the problem.
That's not true. Saxon, whose last name I cannot remember, something with Fletch, I believe, but is a designer, and most of the devs that are currently working on Phase 3 and Gutenberg are design first, and the entirety, well, it is great in theory, except there's a lot of like, when design leads everything. There's actually a whole book about this.
No,
I can link to it.
A book about design?
A book about design.
There's a book about anything.
I will link it in the show notes. Maybe we could do a little.
Hey, are we going to put books in the media library? They are media, right?
I mean, we should be able to put like one.
Do books go in the media?
EPUB. I've never tried to put an EPUB in the media library, but it should. That would make a lot of sense. What I'm trying to say here is that design is not the only thing that matters, right? When you have just design, you're leaving, you leave on the floor so many things. You can have.
When I say design, I'm talking about like user experience, UI, right? Like, not like designing it, but like implementing how those functionalities will
more
appear,
UX,
right?
The experience
UX.
part of it, the actual the way in which the workflows are going to occur.
We're not designing we're not designing a website. We're designing UX.
Yeah, I mean, this is a difficult one to solve, because you have a few different people that are going to be using this. You have people that are wanting to sell images. So now you have WooCommerce involved, or one of the other solutions involved. Then you have someone who, like you, who maybe you want to upload the largest, file size that you want to be able to, have people take a look at it, or maybe you want to sell it. So you want to show them the medium version of it. And then here's the higher quality version of it that you can be able to download. So and then you have people like me. Yeah, like where I just want to put the stuff on the page so that way it's in the correct format, and so that I can continue to have it in the correct format. So there's a bunch of different people that are going to be using this in various ways, and maybe that's why this hasn't been solved yet. And so there's all these plugins that have come out that are all sorts of crappy.
By the way, the book.
Hold
on, the book that I was talking about is called "Ruined by Design." And we were actually talking about having this author on the show at some point, so hopefully we will. So everyone should read it so that we could have a little book club convo with them.
Wherever this is discussed, like whether it's GitHub or if it's some method through what's the mockup? Sorry, you guys. Figma. Yeah, so whether it's through Figma somehow, or I don't know how that would work, but like wherever it's discussed, we've got to get as many eyeballs on it so that we can get like publishers and video people and audio people, and like what should this look like? I coming from strictly photographs, and when I talk about it, I talk about XF, but there's like all the stuff that is available out there to video and audio and PDFs and EPUB, right? Like, are we going to have the ability to upload any media file?
So many use
except SVGs.
The reason there are so many use cases for the media library is because every install of WordPress uses the media library. Like, it is not the same thing as various plugins. Like the media library is core. If you have, like I said, if you have any image on there, you're basically putting it in the media library. So like it touches every use case. This is
I think the font library that got booted to 6.5 is leveraging the media library.
I'm like, why are we modeling things off of what is already broken? I also want to say,
I hope it actually doesn't. I hope the fonts don't actually appear in the media library. I hope they have like their own.
No, it's like
you can still put it in the uploads folder, but like have it in its own separate thing with its own separate interface, right? Like it shouldn't be in media library. It could be on the uploads, but it shouldn't be in.
I'm happy to link that to everyone because that got punted to 6.5 because there were issues. But I also just want to say, so because this has been so long and there have been so many problems with the media library that people have needed to fix with third-party plugins, that there are a plethora of third-party plugins that do a lot of these things. So for example, what
is a plethora?
A plethora? A plethora is many. There are many.
Are there no Three Amigos fans out there?
Oh no, sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. Your age is showing.
Someone will get it.
All right, anyway.
I got it.
Okay, I didn't get it. My point is that there's all these solutions, and this is what we've been doing with the block editor also. I feel like we're building in a silo. Like we're just like, no, we're not going to look at anything else. There's no other page builders that have ever existed. There's no other plugins. Like this plugin, the WP Media Library categories, like it's a free plugin. There's not a pro version. It's developed by someone. Why are we not just taking that and bringing it in and not rebuilding things and saying, hey, look, this already exists. It's being used. Its code is current up to 6.3. Like it is fine. Let's bring in these solutions. Even just looking at let's do a survey of all of the plugins that deal with the media library and see which ones of these have features that obviously, let's look at the top installs. Who's using?
You're not talking about actually doing research before you do a project.
I know, it's crazy. Like not just randomly reskinning things like by design. Like I think this page should look like this, but instead having it based on actual data and information. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. I have been
I haven't looked at every single, photography plugin out there. So like, I have no idea what the feature sets are. I have an idea of what I want in my head, and that's just me, right? That's just me.
If you're rebuilding one of the most important, significant components of one of the biggest content management softwares in the world, it makes sense to me to do a little research. And if that research has been done, it makes sense to me to show that research as a backup to why this mock-up looks like this. We designed this based off of XYZ research that we did. And then everyone would read that and be like, oh, that's really interesting. And maybe not just have like, what this turns into is, here's my like gut reaction of what it should look like, design school experiment mock-up. And then it's like everyone else's gut reaction to that one thing, to that one image. It really just narrows our conversation down to whatever that first
one person's view,
one person's perspective in a freaking global project, like, or two people's perspective, two designers who are in a very specific design, whatever. Yes, they're steeped in the WordPress design brand or whatever, but like, they are, by nature of the fact that they're individual human beings, limited in their experience. And it boggles my mind that we are still not taking advantage of this incredible global community that includes hundreds of executives and top leaders in their fields, and people who use WordPress every day, and power users and agencies. Like, there are plenty of people who have information about this. And I'm not going to say anything about the annual survey, but what if we did a survey and said, what are you looking for in the media library? Right. And,
it's you bring up an interesting point, because like, how many of these new features that get introduced, like, we have a beta process, right? But do we have, like a vote, or a like, hey, what do you guys think? Or, some kind of a process that happens before things get introduced. So you get to a beta stage and it's like, okay, let's take some actual user feedback. One of my biggest sticking points right now is the lack of involvement with agencies that work with clients, right? Like, I was really like pushing before I got laid off at Web Dev Studios. I was like really like pushing for having a liaison, and I would have been this person to liaise with the development teams on these features that get put out without any input from different agencies and clients, right? Like,
we're using it every day.
And this is a big problem, because we're the ones making these sites for clients. We're the ones that are interacting with the clients that use these feature sets, right? Like, the biggest one that came to me was the how to add a link now. It's totally changed from, like just a year ago, right? Like, I think this came out in 6.3 maybe. It's like, you enter a link, you hit enter, you don't have the options that used to show up when you hit enter, right? Like, so now you have to enter, highlight the link again, click on like the edit, and then drop down the thing. And it's like, all I want to do is make this launch into a new window or new tab, right? And now I have to have like 5 or 6 new steps, whereas before it was right in line with the link.
And that right there is why design is not the be all end all of everything, because designers like to hide things. They say, oh, I want this to be streamlined. I want this to just be, here's my thing. But what that does is it abstracts people from what
you're right.
And it designers like a Fisher Price version without all the options. And then we're just like, it might look slick, but it's not functional. Like our goal
designers
is not to look.
Designers are specifically why for the past 5 years, all MacBooks only had 1 or 2 USB-C ports on them.
Right.
Like
that's like a great example. The design of the
I think that's a cost thing.
The design of the MacBooks and like the battery, like how they were like, oh, we can't use this battery anymore because it has to, like, for the phones, right? And they were like, oh, we have to shrink it so much, so now we can't have a button, or I don't know what it was, like the lightning plug won't work, or you can't have the headphone jack because the phone has to be thinner. And everyone's like, but we want our headphones. Like we want to jack in our headphones. And
I'm trying to put
the
show notes together right now. And I had to know the name of the page first before the URL. I had to go and find the name of the book that we're talking about and then paste that into the post and then highlight the text, go back and grab the URL and then paste it back in there. Yeah. I'm not writing the book name. I don't even care what the book name is. I just need the book name to show up when I paste in this URL. And instead it wants to embed the damn page because it goes, it's a WordPress site. So like everyone uses these tools differently, but for whatever reason, we've all said, you know what, this is the way to do it because some coder built it this way.
We all just accept it because what everyone thinks, in my opinion, is that someone is handling this and someone is having these discussions and someone is making these decisions based off of research, based off of data input, based off of information from the community. But that is
based off of what
it's not true. Yeah,
it is not
based off of new functions and new libraries that just came out, and we're going to build a thing off of it. It's like, okay, cool. I'm so glad that you got to use your new thing. But by the way, someone over at the post needs to be able to like upload an image, and they need to put together an entire project that they're going to be posting. And instead, it's mixed in with the header graphics that the art department threw in there.
Right.
I don't know. It's so just like thrown together. And I don't understand how someone who works in a huge publication deals with this crap.
Because a lot of them have bespoke systems and a lot of them have super customized media libraries. Like, even William was saying that like there's all sorts of plugins that exist that outsource the media library. So it's not
some of these plugins have I'm looking at one right now called Enhanced Media Library, right? It was updated 2 years ago. It has 100,000 plus installs.
Right.
And I've used this thing before and it is not that great for what it is that I was trying to get it to do. And a lot of the time these things are just like stuff that's just bolted on top of the dashboard. And it's like you go into it in like a full screen, as if like Awesome Motive or somebody wrote it, a whole screen thing pops up. And now you're like editing, like you're editing a thing or something. It's just like, I don't know. This was not the right way to do it. And I get what you're trying to do, but this was set up a very weird way just for you. And it's not going to work for everybody else.
So if you do a search in the plugin repo, which I have just done on media library, first of all, you can't see how many plugins there are that come up for that because it doesn't give you that data, of course, anymore. It's just here's your search results, and those are the ones you get, which it's a different topic. But there are literally, and I'm sure this comes up on things that aren't specifically for the media library, but there's literally more than there's 50 pages of this, right? And all of these have like some 300 installs. These are not small things, and all of these different plugins have various features. Most of them have categories. Some of them have folders. Why? Even if we're not taking these plugins and absorbing them, we could look at these plugins and say, what problems have these plugins been solving? And how can we incorporate that solution into core? Even if we don't even touch their code or their plugin at all. We don't have to assimilate their programs into the actual core. We could just you can see by looking at these plugins what problems people have been having, because these problems these plugins answer those problems. These are the solutions to those problems. So it's not, you don't even have to do like research of asking people. You can just research the plugin library as it exists. And again,
I saw a couple
done, it is not being documented, and that is a problem.
Yeah, that is. It is. And it goes back to
unused images.
But I was going to say,
images. Let's see all the used images. Let's see, everything that's used on this page. Like all of this stuff is not rocket science. Like it is not like small use cases of 5% of people using it or whatever. Like these are large use cases that so many people want to use. There's like what was that, like 6 plugins on the first page that are about searching the media library? Like that's
give me a view where I can see Sorry, William. Just give me a view where I can see everything that's been used as a featured image, please.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I like that.
There's a couple.
I just want to bring in Otto's comment from the things, if you could, because it says we don't do it that way because people simply aren't that way. Okay, creating something new is simply more fun than iterating on someone else's idea. First of all, that's not true. My personal preference is to iterate on someone else's idea because I have an editing type of brain. I would much rather iterate on an existing idea than something I'm making up from scratch. So I have not to bust that out generalization out of the water, but it's not true even amongst these 4 people. However, the assumptions that we make, like what you just said, Otto, that people aren't that way, or that's not what people want. If you have data to back that up, a survey, research, anything, awesome. If we're just saying that because we're basing it off of an assumption because of whatever assumption is going into that opinion, that is not what we should be building the CMS that powers 43% of the internet on. Like that someone thinking that people are just that way, that's not a reasonable data point. I'm sorry. It's just not. So that is not we've done it that way. Great. Let's not do it that way in the future, because that way lies pain. There be dragons.
That is a great thought. William, what were you going to say? And then I think maybe we should hit the outro button.
I can't believe we've been talking for an hour. So sorry.
So I was going to say, I saw a couple
long walk for Jacob.
You going to let me speak or what?
No.
So there's a couple plugins for infinite scroll. I don't know if you guys noticed when that was taken out. So in the media library, the default was infinite scroll. I don't know if you remember this. And then they switched it to pagination, I guess, for accessibility issues. But it was just removed. And I'm like, wait, what happened here? So one of the things I'd like to have in this new media library, a feature, is the ability to switch between, infinite scroll, like the pagination that's there currently, which you hit load more, or actual pagination, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4. So like, you have an option if you need accessibility issue, like if you have accessibility issues, it could default to a regular standard pagination. But if you want that infinite scroll, if you want to live with that, which I do, I like the infinite scroll, like then just have at it, like change your settings, right?
I like how we
change the ability, change the way in which you're able to view. You can go from grid view to list view. What about the ability to?
I just need to say here that we said let's wrap it up, and then William's all wait, but infinite scroll. Hold on. This is really important.
It's a show that never ends.
Yeah, it is a show. We're getting longer and longer all the time, and I swear it's not just because I'm ranting. It's because WordPress is so interesting.
No, this is like Jason said, what was your thoughts? And I said, okay, this is my thought right here. So
there's not nearly enough time to include both my bitter bitching and other people's thoughts. It does not. There's no.
Oh, sorry. I forgot this is the Say show.
No, it's not the Say show. It's I've just been working stuff out lately. There's been some WordPress problems. I've been using this as my therapy, okay? Because my therapist does not understand WordPress. Let's just be clear about that. Hey, wait, that would be a really great niche.
And with that, this is our outro.
Wait, I thought we had more things to say. Listen on Apple Podcasts.
You can also go hang out with us at all the various places that you can listen to a podcast. We would love to have you subscribe over there. Talk to y'all later. You have a good one. Bye-bye.
We like to pretend